Cool. Okay, I always like to start with this question. What does PBP mean to you?
Damn, that's a good question that you prepped me for, and I should have thought about more.
It's almost like you didn't do the homework, Fergus, but keep going. Okay, all right.
Par for the course. Before I did it, it meant something completely different than what it means to have completed it. And I feel like this might be true for a lot of people. When I first heard about it, it was like this fantasy of joyfully rolling through the French countryside, which that's like 1% of it. Having completed it, to me, it's like this kind of this like little secret that I have with like 8,000 other people that completed it with me. That's like, hey, remember that really like crazy kind of, excuse my language, fucked up thing that we did?
Yeah.
Is that weird? And so I really love it. And sometimes people will, like, I was just on a trip and some friends, they would introduce me and say, oh, here's Fergus, he did PvP. And people go, oh, and they'd say, oh, he did it in 66 hours. And they're like, oh, and I'm like, oh yeah, I guess,
Yeah.
which isn't like horribly fast, but it's fast enough, right?
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, so it's this wonderful shared experience.
What does completing PBP mean to you?
I was I looked at this question since I had these questions a little bit earlier, and initially I had a lot of different ideas, but I think the main one is it means that I'm alive. Like that's
Okay.
probably the biggest thing, and that being 51, my life is very much not over, and there are new challenges I can have, and some of that is a real growing process. We don't need to dig deep into this, but I used to be very, very heavily into skateboarding.
Okay.
And I very much know there was a high watermark of how good I could ever be before it became, now I'm old enough that I'll get hurt trying to do
Yeah.
some of the stuff I did before.
Yeah.
So I know I'm as good as I could ever be in that. There might be a couple things I could still learn, but not in the same way of putting my body in danger.
Yeah.
And cycling fits that hole for me really, really well
Yeah.
of being able to challenge myself.
Yeah, that's a really
Yeah.
interesting one. I haven't heard it answered in that way before, Greg. Like skateboarding, I've
Yeah.
never skateboarded, but I'm a huge fan of what people do. But there is the drop off, very quick drop off as you get a little bit
Yep.
older, and you're not doing it as an older person. Whereas cycling, you can do it for a very, very long time. Cool.
Well, it's pain you can sustain that isn't necessarily an injury.
Yeah.
With skateboarding, I knew I was trying the times when I was limping or couldn't walk. That meant I tried that day. If I didn't fall, I wasn't trying.
Yeah.
But with bikes, I can really feel like I did something and be able to do it another day again
Yeah.
without having to, I don't know, take a week off because I broke a bone or something.
Yeah.
Not that you
Excellent.
can't have something that bad happen in cycling, but it's
Yeah.
skateboarding. It's right there constantly.
Yeah. I think the decline is less dramatic in biking, thankfully. What does completing PBP mean to you?
Well, completing PBP to me really means that, I had the opportunity to participate in what is like essentially the most historic cycling event that amateurs can be a part of in the world. And that's what really um, was the like allure of PBP for me.
It means it's like a culmination of effort, really, because it's one of those ones where you have to qualify. So it's kind of puts the icing on a cake for years of effort, really. I think, yeah, kind of the pinnacle of long distance cycling, really. So you've done 100, 400, 600 kilometer events, and then when
Yeah.
you're out, because only found out about it when I was chatting to other riders. I think
Yeah.
I was just starting getting into Audax in like 2013, 14. I remember doing
Yeah.
some Audaxes, and the other riders there were like, "So you qualifying? You going to qualify then?" I was like, "Qualify for what? I'm just riding an Audax."
Yeah.
And
That's
then
cool.
yeah, it became apparent there was this big thing.
So I always like to start with this question. What does completing PBP mean to you?
Uh, I think it's in current society we kind of have it all in some ways. Like we can have all the objects that we want. With a little bit of work. but this is something that not everybody can have without a bunch of just going to dark places. And that's both training and doubting yourself and kind of those low moments. So that's kind of what it meant, right? Like it was something that wasn't material. It was something that was very difficult to achieve, but it wasn't material. It was all kind of like in my memories and in that sort of untouchable realm of existence. So you know,
Sure.
no, I don't want to assign too much depth to it, but it really is
Okay.
kind of what it is. I think we seek this like endurance cycling
Yeah.
or running or trekking really for um, to get somewhere that we otherwise wouldn't get, right? Like
Yeah.
you only get to those places sometimes by really going in the red sometimes.
So true. And we'll hear about you going in the red later. Okay.
Well, s- completing PBP, it's really been a journey. It was PBP for me was as much about the ride as it was getting to PBP. And so, to me, it was really like a high point in my cycling journey and a high point in my life. And, it's been 5 years now since I did the ride, and I sort of, as they say, randonesia sets in. And so
Yeah.
now, I have all these memories of PBP, and it's a fond memory. I look back at it, and it feels great. And it was before the pandemic, so that makes it
Yeah.
extra special. And yeah, so and sort of when you approached me for this for with this idea, it's taken me back to I'd sort of not thought about PBP for a while, and now I have, and
Yeah.
it's brought back a lot of good memories.